Your fantasy football draft is coming up, and maybe you're undecided on what players you want to target. Well, in this video, we're talking about 7 players who will carry fantasy football teams in 2025. Let's start with Rome Odunze. A lot of people forget about Rome because of the dumpster fire that was Chicago's offense last year. It was absolutely embarrassing. They looked like a college football, maybe a high school offense out there. The play calling was atrocious. Caleb Williams was bad. The offensive line was bad. Everything. Odunze ran 144 routes last season where there wasn't even a target on the play. If that doesn't put a bow on describing what this offense was, pretty much meaning he ran a ton of routes with not even a chance to catch the ball because it either resulted in a sack, throwaway, tipped pass. This was a low volume, inefficient offense. On top of Odunze being a rookie at that, the cards were stacked against him from the very beginning, and then it didn't get any easier for Rome. He suffered a grade 1 MCL sprain in his left knee in week 1, so he was playing through that. But let's not forget the player that he is. He was a 9th overall pick last year. He's an elite prospect. He was ultra productive in college. He scored a 9.92 relative athletic score at the combine, which ranked 27th out of 3,402 receivers from 1987 to 2024. This is an athletic freak. This is a physical specimen. I know we haven't seen a lot of him yet, right, at the NFL level. I think Odunze is an obvious breakout this year because his situation is drastically different. We know this offensive line is completely revamped, so maybe Caleb Williams will not be getting sacked in every single play or rushed on every single play. He'll actually have time to throw the football. And I think most importantly, most notably, it's Ben Johnson coming in as a head coach. He's going to call the plays. We know the type of play caller he is. He's very creative. I think he's one of the best in the league right now. And this is a perfect example of just betting on a talented player. Odunze is a very talented player, and his situation is completely different. So I don't think a lot of what happened last year was his fault. I think the Chicago offense takes a huge leap, and I think Odunze is going to be the wide receiver 1 on this team. And yeah, I get it. You can argue that it's crowded with DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Colson Loveland. There's a lot of weapons, but I think Odunze might be the best one this year. I think he has double-digit touchdown upside, and I think this offense under Ben Johnson, even Caleb Williams, is going to take a leap this year. We saw flashes in the preseason. I get it. It's only the preseason, but they have looked like a different offense. We'll see if it translates over to week 1. I believe that it will, and I believe that Odunze is a smash pick in round 7. Moving on to our next guy, Tyler Warren. Don't make the same mistake this year that you likely made last year if you passed up on Brock Bowers, because the situation is very similar. Warren is joining an offense that isn't attractive with a quarterback that isn't that great in Daniel Jones. Similar situation last year. Bowers on Vegas started with Gardner Minshew. I know Aiden O'Connell took over. Devontae Adams was there. Adams did get traded, right? The cards kind of fell perfectly for Bowers, but I think that could exactly happen for Warren this year. I'm actually glad that Daniel Jones is the starter, which is kind of weird to say, but it's clear that Anthony Richardson is just not ready, and Richardson's specialty is throwing the ball deep, which might not fare well for Warren, who's probably going to thrive on those short to intermediate passes, which Daniel Jones can be very accurate on. And this is a guy that has high draft capital. The Colts spent the 14th overall pick to get him, and he broke out his senior season at Penn State, 104 receptions, over 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, but he's also very versatile. He can run it in. He can play fullback. He can play running back. He had 4 rushing scores, 218 rushing yards, 12 total touchdowns. It'll be pretty crazy if the Colts use him in that facet. Like if they give him a goal line carry, he'd instantly vault into being a top 5 tight end if he got rushing usage, which probably won't with JT, but you never know. He was also top 3 in yards per route run, receiving grade, missed tackles forced, and yards after the catch among tight ends last year. This is a really special player that's going to be a huge part of the Colts offense in year 1, especially with just pretty average weapons as far as I'm concerned in the passing game. Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs is a fun player, but he always seems to be hurt. And I will say I do like Josh Downs, but I want to see it. I feel like every single year we have high hopes and he never really comes through. And this is a player that's going to be a huge part of the Colts offense from week 1. And their actions are telling us that is going to be the case. In 2 preseason games, he saw 100% of the starter snaps in week 1 and 14 out of the 15 starter snaps in week 2. Focus less on the relatively potentially poor situation in Indianapolis and bet on a talented player that we know is going to see massive volume in his rookie year. I think Warren is a great tight end in round 8+. If you don't get one of those top tier guys, I don't like taking one of the guys in the middle. If you don't get Kittle, McBride, or Bowers, I personally will not reach for Bowers this year. But if you don't get one of those guys, wait until the later rounds and draft Tyler Warren. All right, moving on to our next player. This is a guy that I've been all over the place on. I've been very wishy-washy. I have been telling you to draft him. I've been telling you to avoid him, but it's Christian McCaffrey, you guys. I am back in on CMC this year. I'm finally here to plant my flag. I've made my decision, and I will deal with the consequences. And we know the biggest concern, obviously, with Christian is his health. Over the last 4 years, he's either won your league or lost your league. And the most concerning thing right now is this bilateral Achilles tendonitis. We don't want it to come back, right? But I think that it might have been resolved, hopefully. And here's why. Teammate George Kittle actually also dealt with bilateral Achilles tendonitis a couple years ago. And what did he do? He went and received some stem cell treatment and has had no issues since. And we know McCaffrey also got this same stem cell treatment last year. So what if it just never comes back? I get it. He's also an older player at the age of 29, but I do think he has one more elite season left in him, and he showed no signs of decline in the games that he played last year. And the 49ers are going to need all of CMC this year. They have a lot of question marks at receiver. Debo gone, Brandon Ayuk coming off that ACL tear. I like Ricky Pearsall. I like George Kittle, but I think that Kyle Shanahan in this offense is going to pepper McCaffrey with targets again, which actually might be a way to preserve his health, get him out in open space, opposed to just running him up the middle every single play. And we like receptions, especially in PPR leagues. I honestly think Christian is going to eat this year on the ground, through the air. He's going to get the touchdowns. No, I'm not worried about Brian Robinson Jr. taking away his goal line carries. Come on. Robinson is strictly only a bench spot, depth piece, security edition, if you will. Here's what I will say, though. I will not draft Christian over Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, or Saquon Barkley. But after that, I have no problem taking him after that tier. I think he's definitely worth a swing. It's the whole mentality of you play to win, right? He's very high risk, very high reward. If you play 17 games this year, you have a very good shot at winning your league, because if he is healthy and he is on the field, he's going to do what Christian McCaffrey does. He's going to score a lot of fantasy points. And I think especially this year, because I don't think this 49ers defense is going to be as elite as it has been in past years, which means this offense is going to have to pick up some of the slack, and they're going to need to score a lot of points to win football games this year. I just think CMC, obviously, if he's on the field, is going to be a big part of that. So, yep, I'm backing you guys. Take Christian, and I think you're going to be happy that you did so this year. I really hope this doesn't backfire, but I've made up my mind, and I feel good about it. All right, moving on to our next guy, Courtland Sutton, who was a guy that was quietly productive last year. He's not a flashy player. He's not a player that you likely get ultra excited about when you draft him. But from week 8 on last year, he was really good. The wide receiver 10, averaging 18 fantasy points per game. And he obviously directly benefited from the emergence of Bo Nix, who we all know I absolutely love on this channel. And Bo Nix got on an absolute heater from week 5 on. Once he finally figured it out, he was dominant, ranking 8th in fantasy points per dropback, 9th in highly accurate throw rate, 10th in completion percentage over expected, 15th in yards per attempt. And Sutton also got paid. Follow the money, right? 4 years, $92 million deal at the age of 29, kind of crazy, but $41 million guaranteed. Even with the additions of some pass catchers, Evan Ingram, Pat Bryant, I still think that Sutton is going to be Denver's clear-cut #1 target in this offense, on a Denver offense that is going to throw the ball a lot. I think the volume is going to be there again for Sutton, as Bo ranked top 6 in pass attempts last year. I also, like to see Sutton playing well in the preseason. I know it's only preseason, but the chemistry that was on display between Bo and Sutton in the last preseason game was really impressive. They were really dominant, and on 25 preseason Bo Nix dropbacks, Courtland has a 42% target share and a 78% air yard share. This is a bet on Bo Nix being even better this year. And this is also a bet on this Sean Payton offense taking an even bigger step this year. Grab Sutton with confidence in round 5 and never look back. Moving on to our next guy, the guy in the thumbnail, Rashee Rice. Maybe you clicked on the video because you want to hear my pitch for why you should draft Rashee. Let's talk about it. Obviously, the suspension is concerning. I'm hoping it's going to be in the 4 to 6 game range, ideally, but we don't know when he's going to have to serve that suspension. When is it going to come? All those things are up in the air. But what we do know is that when Rice is on the field, he is going to be a top 5 fantasy receiver this season. No questions asked. No doubt about it in my mind, because everything that he's done, there's no other reason to think otherwise. And we know what we got from Rice last year before he got hurt. He was averaging 21.6 points per game over the first 3 weeks of the season, and he was the wide receiver 2 over that stretch. And what's been good to see in preseason, in training camp, is that he looks like he has that explosiveness back. That was another thing that we were worried about outside of the suspension, was how was he going to recover from this knee injury? He looks fully recovered to me. He looked good in week 3 of the preseason. We know he caught that touchdown from Mahomes as well. And another part of this is just a gut call here, but I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go absolutely crazy this year. I know he's been kind of a very average fantasy quarterback the last couple of years. He hasn't been that top 5 guy that he used to be, but that might change this year. I have a feeling that Mahomes is a little bit upset after getting embarrassed in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. He's kind of seems like he has a chip on his shoulder. And when maybe the most talented quarterback that we've ever seen is angry and has a chip on their shoulder, we should maybe take notice here. So I think this offense is going to be better. Xavier Worthy, not a huge fan of drafting him at cost in fantasy this year, but he does bring an element of explosiveness to this offense. Hollywood Brown is healthy. Travis Kelce, older player, but still has that connection with Mahomes. They have enough weapons. And even in 2022, when Mahomes threw 41 touchdowns, they had Travis Kelce and then Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like, they had no one. So a little off track here, but I do think Mahomes is going to have a career year. Again, this is just a gut call. I don't have much to back that up, but if he does have a monster year and Rashee Rice is out on the football field, good things are going to happen. And on top of that, Rice is just a really talented player. I know the 3-game sample size. If that's not enough for you, let's stretch it out to 11 games since seeing a full-time role, including the playoffs. He's averaged 17.9 fantasy points per game. That would equate to probably a top 10 finish at the position. This is another player who is high risk, high reward, but we don't play scared on this channel. I think Rashee Rice is going to be, like I said, a top 5 receiver in fantasy this year. When he's on the field, hopefully he doesn't miss more than 4 to 6 games. We'd be okay with that. Obviously, if he misses the fantasy playoffs, then that wouldn't be great. That's some of the risk here. But he's a guy that you can get at the end of round 4 in fantasy drafts. I have no problem taking a chance on him. All right, on to our next guy. A guy who is an older player. You could call him Mr. Reliable at this point. He continues to prove his doubters wrong year after year, and that is James Conner, who I think is going to continue his dominance as Arizona's workhorse back yet again. An older player, showed 0 signs of declining last season as he put up 1,500 total yards, 1st in evaded tackles, 2nd in missed tackles forced per attempt, 6th in explosive run rate, 11th in yards after contact per attempt. Like, is he one of the most underrated running backs, especially in fantasy? No one wants to draft him. No one's talking about him. You can get him in round 5. Like, that is just disrespectful. He's a guy who put up double-digit fantasy points in 11 of 16 games last year. He had 5 weeks with 18-plus fantasy points. He's also effective in the passing game. No real competition for touches either in this backfield, even at the age of 30. This is a tried and true guy. If you like to take an elite running back and then wait a little bit, James Conner is a phenomenal target in round 5 that has top 12 upside at the position. And on to our last guy, Nico Collins, who was on his way to probably breaking fantasy football last year. Weeks 1 to 4, he was the wide receiver 2, averaging 22.7 fantasy points per game. He was 1st in receiving yards, 2nd in receptions. Such a shame that he missed those 5 games with the hamstring injury, but this guy's an absolute stud, well within the prime of his career, only 26 years old. And over his last 2 seasons, he leads the NFL in yards per route run and fantasy points per route run. And he's also the highest graded receiver over that span, according to PFF. And I think Nico has wide receiver 1 overall upside this year because he has minimal competition for targets. We know Tank Dell not going to play this year. Stephon Diggs not on the roster. New offensive coordinator. This is probably the biggest thing. Bobby Slowick, former OC last year, was really bad. He was really bad. He had to go. Now they bring in Nick Caley from the Los Angeles Rams. Any coach that comes from the Rams, especially an offensive mind under that Sean McVay tree, is going to be really good. And I think Haley is going to use Collins in creative ways to get their star player the football. This offensive environment is going to be better. This offensive line also should be better. And there's a lot of question marks at running back. What's going to happen with Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Woody Marks? Like, I just don't think their running back room is going to be that good, which means they're going to rely on the pass. And I think CJ Stroud is a really good quarterback. His rookie year was not a fluke. Last year, I don't really think was his fault. It was the play calling, and it was the offensive line. It was horrible. Stroud had literally no time to ever throw the football. So the one concern that we have with Collins is his injury history. He has battled a lot of injuries over the course of his career. Not ideal, but if he's on the football field, he's a locked in top 5 receiver at worst in fantasy football this year. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you took away anything from the video, if you can please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and I'll see you in the next one.